Welcome to Dysfunctionally Yours, the podcast where we embrace the chaos, laugh through the struggles, and find hope on the other side of trauma. I'm your host, Brittany, and if you've ever felt like your life was a beautifully messy roller coaster of dysfunction, trust me, you're in good company. Here, we'll have real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous conversations about mental health, relationships, and healing, because let's be honest, life isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean we can't come out of it stronger and maybe even smiling. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of bubbles, and let's navigate this wild journey together, dysfunctionally, but never alone. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Dysfunctionally Yours. I am your host, Brittany, and happy freaking Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. I hope you did something to celebrate yourself, that it was something more than going to the zoo because that's what the kids like. I hope that it was brunch with the ladies or fancy date night with the hubby with maybe too much wine because you didn't have any more responsibilities, or a bath, or a time to sleep in and read a book, whatever it is. Cheers to you. Happy Mother's Day, right? And what a blessing it is to be a mom, to have these tiny little humans, to watch them grow, to watch them surprise you, to watch them slip and fall, and then pick themselves up and just start to become these resilient little people that you created. And, and then to be able to always have them come back whenever they're sick, right? They're going to keep on calling you. They still call me. They are 26 and 23, and they still call me when they are sick. And then, of course, happy Mother's Day to all of my mamas out there that struggled alone, that struggled financially, that struggled mentally and emotionally, that waited up all night for those kids to come home, biting your nails, hoping. To the mamas that got that call in the middle of the night to bail them out of jail, yikes. And to the mamas that were told that their babies aren't coming home anymore. You are not alone. I see you, and happy Mother's Day to you. Being a mom is hard, whether you're in an intact family or a single family, whether the partner, the dad, whoever is MIA or a solid co-parent, doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that being a parent is absolutely the hardest job in the entire world, right? And we live in this day and age right now where society and social media really curate this content that makes like being a mom look aesthetically pleasing, that you always have your shit together, that your hair is always done, that your makeup is flawless, that, everything matches in that neutral beige color, even the toys that the baby plays with now are aesthetically pleasing to the household decor. Your baby needs to see colors. Your baby doesn't want to see muted earth tones. That might be your vibe. I know it's mine. But your baby needs to see red and blue, maybe some hot pink and fuchsia. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not, but I am. But what being a parent really, really is it's mist showers, it's messy hair, it's like more goldfish and fruit snacks than you could ever dream you would have access to. It's more of one of those things where your bag or your purse is no longer your bag or your purse. It's really just another vessel for all of the kids' things. Like, I feel like at any moment you could have been like, hey, Brittany, what's in your bag? And I could have pulled out literally anything except a tampon. I probably could have pulled out maybe a soccer cleat. I could have pulled out granola bars and fruit snacks. I could have pulled out a deck of playing cards and fidget toys. I could pull out just about anything except maybe the thing that I might need. That's what being a mom is. That's what it is. And God forbid you ask to borrow a pen. I might not have a pen, but I might be able to pull out a crayon that may or may not have old fruit snacks mushed into it. I don't know. Don't judge me. That's what it is to be a mom. And that's okay. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it exciting. Motherhood has so many highs and it has so many lows. Like, who knew what they were doing? You had a baby, right? You're like, okay, I'm pregnant. Okay, I'm having a baby. And then when that baby came out, were you like, yep, I know what I'm doing? If you thought that you knew what you were doing, raise your hand. If you didn't know what you were doing, or you thought you did, and then all of a sudden the baby got here, and all of a sudden you were like, "Oh, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing," raise two hands. Because let's be honest, that's much more what it's like. You go, you have this kid. Even the most prepared people are like, this is going to be great. And what am I doing? What's happening now? Also, who had good role models? If you had good role models, raise your hand. But if you didn't, again, raise two. Your vote counts for two. Because if you didn't have good role models, you really had no idea what you were doing. You 100% were going into this blind. And I have heard the argument that like all females have just maternal instinct and it comes natural to them. And I beg to differ. I was raised by a rattlesnake that had zero maternal instinct. And, I also know plenty of people that have dreamed of having large families since they were like 5 years old. I can't wait to have 20 babies when I grow up. And then they grow up and they're like, I still want at least 15 babies. More power to you. That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm glad you have that figured out. But like so many people genuinely don't, right? And me personally, I've talked about it before on a different episode. I never even wanted to be a mom. That was not that was not on my bucket list of things that I wanted to do. But you know what? I'm damn good at it. I not so humble brag. I'm a good fucking parent. I'm a good mama for sure. I'm not good at very many things. I don't excel at very many things, but I will always say I was a phenomenal parent. I'm great at work. These are my gold star moments. These are the things that I'm going to brag about. And that's okay. I was great at it. And, that's almost in spite of where I came from. Like, certainly no thanks to that support system, right? I feel like every time I reached out to her, it was just like, I don't know. It was like talking to a wall. It wasn't helpful at all. And so, really had to figure a lot of those things out all on my own, what made sense and what didn't make sense for me, for my family. And there was a learning curve to that. That's for sure. I've talked a lot about that. But I did always think though, that whenever I figured it out, whenever I was a good mom or whenever my kids would be good kids or something like that, it was always in the back of my mind that she would finally see me excel at something and it would make her proud. It wasn't for many, many, many years that I realized I was chasing a finish line that I would never have, right? Like when you run to the end of the rainbow for that pot of gold, I promise you, you're never going to find it and it doesn't exist. So I did have to put that out of my mind. And I think whenever I finally put that out of my mind, that I was never going to get that pot of gold, that like, hey, I'm proud of you. You're a great mom from her. It made parenting even easier for me because I was doing it for me and for my children in the way that made sense for me and for my children. And if I were to be honest, Corbin and Caden taught me almost everything that I know. Corbin grew up and he was so similar to me. I got him. I got his responses. I got his emotions. I really understood him and what he was saying. And I understood how to talk to him when he was upset, when he was mad, when he was happy, when he was sad. That was something that I understood. It worked well. And it made it feel very easy. I was like, oh my God, easiest baby ever, easiest child. This is amazing. And then I had Caden. I was like, I'm killing it, right? Before Caden, I was like, I'm killing it. I know how to do this. Maybe it is natural. Then I had Caden. Caden is not just like me. And when a child is not just like you, it takes a little bit longer to understand that. And there was such a vast difference between the two of them. But I finally did learn somewhere along the way. Well, I know where that place along the way was, but Caden is much more introverted than me. And Caden taught me how to navigate life with an introvert. Well, not always easy, but he definitely taught me. Caden was fine in the house, right? Like that's his comfort zone. That's where he he's okay. He's chilling in the house, never having any problems with him, little perfect little human. And then he was going to school and he was raising a ruckus. He was like a little hellion going to school. And I'm constantly getting calls from the first grade teacher, the second grade teacher, all the teachers. And I'm like, what is happening? What is wrong? Why won't Caden just be normal in school? I had no idea. And he's not able to tell me because I'm not communicating with him in the way that made sense to him. And so it's just not working. And then Caden finally gets into 5th grade. He was going to a new school. I go into the new school and I'm like, hey, I need him to go to a relatively strict teacher that's not going to put up with any nonsense. And that's going to be better for him. And they were like, well, we don't have options as far as teachers go because he's going in an accelerated class. And I was like, what do you mean? Also, FYI, I held Caden back. Caden did 1st grade twice. And so I was like, what do you mean? And they said, did you not see his test scores? And I was like, I guess not. I mean, I'm sure I did, but those test scores don't mean anything to all of us parents. That wasn't a thing. And so they pull out his test scores and they show me again, Caden aced all of his standardized state testing. So Caden's basically like a little genius and they're putting him in all of these accelerated classes. And they're like, well, no wonder he was acting a fool in the other school because he was bored out of his mind with what they were doing. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So he goes into these new classes. Caden hates this teacher, or so it seems. He is so disrespectful to this teacher. He is getting in trouble regularly. They're constantly calling me. I am at my wit's end with this. Like, I just genuinely don't even know what to do with this child at this point because he doesn't act like that at home. He's not disrespectful to me or anybody in the community, right? He's on soccer teams. He's at his friends' houses. He's in Boy Scouts. He's doing all of the things. Nobody complains about Caden except the school. And now except this teacher. And so I'm just over it. And I finally look at him and there's a bee in my house. Bee, please leave. Come on. Okay. I mean, it's just a honeybee, but all right, we're gonna keep going. Anyways, so I'm standing there one night and I'm just so over it. I don't know what to say to him. I don't know what to do. And I finally look at him and I was like, just go to your damn room and I need you to write me a 3-page letter on what it means to be respectful. Because he keeps telling me he understands it, but now I'm like, no, you need to show me. All right, this little boy goes upstairs. He's not gone but 30 minutes. He comes back down with 3 pages of all of the ways of what respect is and all of the ways his teacher has disrespected him, using my own words against me. We don't just have to give respect to people. People have to earn our respect. And this teacher didn't earn his respect because she did all of these things. All that to be said, I had no idea. I didn't know this is how he felt. I didn't know that this is what was going on. And so, of course, I take his letter. We set up a conference with the teacher. And I talked to the teacher and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what Caden says the problem is. We need to find a solution. After that talk, something changed. They now suddenly were communicating better with one another. And that became Caden's favorite teacher. And he talked to that teacher, that 5th grade teacher, all the way up until he graduated high school. And obviously it was not in the same school, multiple different schools. And I think she went off to be a principal somewhere, but he kept track of her and he constantly communicated with her. He ended up respecting her more than anybody else. So I learned really that you do have to listen to what your children are saying. Like, they know themselves better than you know them, no matter how hard that is for a parent to accept that their children might know themselves the best. But I also learned a lot about Caden in that moment, things that I had no idea. Also, it should be noted that when I told him to go to his room, his response was finally. So this is where I learned about his little introverted self, because Corbin, on the other hand, Corbin wants to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Do you see the similarities? I said we're the same. And Caden doesn't want to talk. Caden would much rather go process things in his room. And so whenever I told him to go to his room because I couldn't even stand this moment anymore, and he's like, thank you. And he was able to go upstairs, recuperate, bounce back, and everything was fine. I was like, oh. And he finally was like, I don't want to sit here and talk to you. I don't know what to say to you until I think about it. All right. The things I'm learning from a 10-year-old child. Thank you, 10-year-old child. We appreciate the lessons we learn from our kids, even if they are not always easy, right? I also tried to be the PTA mom. Pass. So fucking hardcore pass. I joined the PTA and I volunteered to help all the PTA moms do the kindergarten graduation. And it was horrible. Like they already had it all planned and they were using like a template from seasons past, which obviously that makes sense, but they already had it all planned. They didn't really want to work together. They weren't open to new ideas and it was like full steam ahead. And so even though I technically was like the chair of this, it did not matter. I was so out of that. And then they would just get together and it was almost like I don't know, it felt very much like Mean Girls Club as grown adults. You know, like that movie Bad Moms? Kind of like that. It was weird. And that happened before Bad Moms came out. So it's not like I had that like idea put in my brain by a movie. No, this was much sooner than that movie. Anyway, so no PTA. No. Clearly that wasn't going to be my jam, but I wanted to find this place to be involved in my kid's life. And so if it wasn't PTA, what was it going to be? Well, sports. That's what it was going to be. My kids played a lot of sports, all of the sports they played, and they were both very good at them, both very athletic. And so I was the ultimate soccer mom until like Caden branched off to go do basketball. And then Corbin also was like, I want to try all of these other things too. But ultimate soccer mom. I was on top of it and I was the biggest nuisance on the field. There were many times coach would have to be like, Brittany, like pointing at me from across the field to be like, no, chill. And I'm running up and down the field with the boys, like screaming at them, screaming. And I'm like, why isn't the coach doing this? I'll do this. No, I was very into it. But we were there. And then when they needed somebody to step up to coach a team, I was there for that too. When Corbin wanted to play in the off season, play indoor, all right, we're going to put a team together and we'll do that. This is what I did. So no PTA. Yes, team mom of the century. Nobody dubbed me that title. I gave it to myself. So that's fine too. But I also had the boys involved in like a lot of other activities. I've talked previously about how tapped in they were to their community. That seemed very important because we don't have this massive support system. We were in Virginia all by ourselves. There wasn't family. There wasn't anything. Their dad wasn't around. And so it was really important that they had their own community and their own like tribe for themselves, so to speak, right? So they were involved in a lot of activities and we didn't have a lot, right? I'm a single mom. We were in a child support battle for felt like 900 years to where there wasn't anything coming in to help at all. And I didn't have a lot to offer the boys, right? Like I have a job and I'm going to school and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm a single mom with 2 kids that hasn't really started out in her career. So there's not, all of this money to go around. But it was really important to me that my kids fit in and that people didn't tease them. And so if I had them involved in all of these sports and they wore nice clothes, like they wore the clothes that were cool and trendy and, hip. Nobody uses that word anymore. But then they wouldn't get picked on. And then maybe nobody would notice that like we didn't have much and they wouldn't pick on the boys. That in fact did backfire because I am actually way cooler than a lot of moms, given that I am, 17 years older than my child as opposed to 40 years older than my child. And so I was very fashion forward, sometimes ahead of the time. And so Corbin's showing up to school in holy jeans that we're purchasing from, Abercrombie, and people are teasing him for wearing holy jeans that he must have got from Goodwill. And he's coming home and he's like, did you get these at Goodwill? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like, we got them at Abercrombie. And so Corbin, poor kid, is trying to defend himself that he has Abercrombie jeans, not Goodwill jeans. Kids are just so damn mean, right? And so, that's when I started taking the boys actually shopping with me. No, you're going to see where this stuff's coming from. I'm going to let you pick it out, but like, this is where we're shopping. So kids are just mean no matter what. But I did put a lot of effort into, I don't know, and maybe too much. There might be people out there that are like, Brittany, you didn't have to do that. But I did. I put a lot of effort into making sure that my children appeared to have, well, I mean, they did have everything they needed, but everything and more, right? I just didn't want people to pick on my kids. It was really important that they were not bullied. Is that relatable? Do other parents out there actually think about this? I think it's because I was also a mean girl in school. And so coming into this world of like being a mean girl, I knew what mean girls focused on. And I didn't want mean girls bullying my children around. I wanted my kids to be as under the radar as possible, right? Kids are always going to find something to bully another child about. But I really wanted my children to have minimal bullying. It just felt very important to me. It was like protecting my children from the previous version of myself that I was in school. And then, I think there's other challenges that parenting brings, even just aside from that, right? The obvious things. We want our children to grow. We want our children to excel and to succeed and live their very best life. But again, the other things that come into play, the hard parts, it feels like, are like setting the boundaries and the rules and the expectations for families. And much as we would like to take a model from how we were raised, we just can't. The world operates so differently today than it did, right? We weren't walking around. Well, some of you guys might be, but I was not walking around with a cell phone. I did have a pager in high school. Very cool. But I certainly didn't have a cell phone, and it was easy for my mom to ground me. And it was easy for the rattlesnake to ground me from the phone. It was like taking away my lifeline. It was easy for her to ground me from the car. Those things were really, really easy and had a lasting impact. But I don't think that that's the same world that we live in, right? The one time I tried to ground Caden from the phone, he was like, okay. And he went out and got like a burner phone. And then I'm the only one that doesn't have the phone number. All right, that defeats the purpose. Now I can't track down my own kid. So the world is different today. That all being said, I did ground Corbin from the cell phone multiple times. And Corbin never really pushed the envelope. Corbin really was like, we're not breaking the rules, because then we'll be in more trouble. And Corbin didn't want to be in trouble. So he definitely he was a rule follower for the most part. But to be fair, like when Corbin made big mistakes, right? He was playing with fire in school one time. And my immediate response to that was, no, we're going to the fire station. Like, I ended up accidentally pressing weird charges on Corbin. I didn't mean to. I just wanted the fireman to like talk to him about things. But then the program that they put him in bumped him up on a list that if he ever got in trouble for playing with fire ever again, that he would just go straight to detention for that. And I was like, oh God. They were like, yeah, there's no warnings anymore, because he just did the diversion program for this. So he'll never be able to do the diversion program again. He'll go straight to juvie. And I'm like, oh shit, I did it. Whoops. But then to be able to set those rules and the boundaries as a single mom, I think is also very different than, and to let me clarify, a single mom with a very absentee father. So I just really got to have my rules. They didn't have to bounce back and forth between houses for the most part. And they didn't have to learn two sets. They just had to learn mine. And I think that probably made it a little bit easier. It just got to be my decisions. And I didn't have to call and consult with somebody else. And I didn't have to constantly be like, you're not at your dad's anymore, right? It was very much, these are the rules. This is mom's house, period, the end. What a blessing. I mean, pros and cons, right? But I think that setting rules are really hard, because parents constantly are trying to toe that line. What is the line? What is too lenient? What is too strict? If you asked Corbin, he would say I was a very strict mom. I would never call myself strict, but I did have very firm rules and expectations for what was going on in the house and what people should be doing. Like, do your chores, follow the rules, ask for permission. Easy, right? So I didn't think I was strict, but Corbin tells me all the time now that he would say that I was. I also really tried to focus in all of this on learning to accept their independence, but also promoting family, right? Because we were a really tight little, like a little pod, right? It was just the three of us. Like I said, there wasn't any other family. There was nobody else around. So it was just the three of us. We were together all the time. And, I really pushed you two are brothers and you need to be nice to each other and you need to get along. And, this is your best friend. And if I'm not here tomorrow, this is who you have. So really lean into that. But I also needed to accept like that they weren't the same people. They had different interests. And if they wanted a little bit of independence or, just space from each other, I had to learn to allow that and figure out how to fill in all of those gaps. And I think that was a little bit tricky, but I no regrets. They got along for the most part. I mean, I think there's some deep sibling stuff between them for bigger issues, but those are not my stories to share at all. So it was just, that was different. Those are hard things about being a parent. So if you are killing it with the setting rules and boundaries and expectations, fantastic. And if you set them this week and they no longer work next week, that's normal. That makes sense. Ever evolving, ever changing. Like they are such complex little humans, whether they are 5 or 10 or, 15 or 32, like just complex individuals that their needs are ever evolving and they are ever changing. But with all of that change, you're tired. It's like, you're like, I'm a parent and I'm tired. Like that's all that there is to it. I think you're forever tired. You have a newborn, a toddler, a teen. Are you sitting there? Are you wondering like when it gets easier, when you stop being tired? The answer is never. Never. I'm still tired. Corbin is 26 years old. I am still tired. I still leave my phone on in case they call me in the middle of the night. And it's like a fear. Like, what if they call me in the middle of the night? Like, how terrifying. What's wrong? Why are you calling me in the middle of the night? So you're going to be tired. I think you just become a parent and you're tired for the rest of your life. And then as far as the like, when does it get easier? You're sitting there and you're like, oh, these are terrible twos, or, oh, it's just a preteen, it's puberty, or, oh, they're just teenagers. No, again, the answer is no. It never gets easier. It never gets easier. It just gets different, much like life, right? Never easier, just different. And it's full of all of these like constant lessons. And I feel like I'm still learning them. My kids don't live with me. They live down the road and they haven't lived with me. Corbin moved out 8 years ago. Caden moved out, like 5 years ago. Has it been 5 years? Holy moly. No, 4 years. It's been 4 years. And I'm still learning lessons from them, but I feel like I've learned good lessons from them, right? I remember coming home from work not once. I'm sure I didn't learn it in the first moment, but like I remember coming home from work once and I came home and I was just so in a mood from work and came in and the dishes weren't done and the trash wasn't taken out. And those were the boys' chores. Just have this stuff done. And so I went straight into the kitchen and was muttering under my breath, I guess I'll just do this myself. I guess I'll just take it out. You guys have been sitting here all day, but you couldn't do it and I'll just do it myself. And I was pissed. And then they come to me and they're like, Mom, I don't like when you do that. That feels real disrespectful that you do that you just come in and are muttering all of these things. You're not even talking to us. It's not even like you're yelling at us. You're just like muttering it loud enough for all of us to hear. Like, we hate this and it makes us feel like crap. And you never said it had to be done by the time you got home from work. You just said it had to be done today. I wasn't planning on going to bed for 4 more hours. So I had 4 more hours to do this task. Fair. That makes sense. All right. we're learning a little bit about communication, but we're also learning a little bit about, the impact that we have on our children, even in moments that might not, I don't know, we might not even think about it. It's just we're the parents and we're just having a moment. And we think sometimes that we're allowed to just have those moments and that it doesn't impact our children, but like it does impact our children and they do care. So we need to be mindful of those things. And then there's other parts, right? Being able to watch from afar, like a game or a dance or something like that, just being so proud, watching them and seeing them utilize these social skills that you've taught them or these manners that you've taught them, watching them be polite as they start dating or as they're being compassionate to their peers at school when they're sad. Corbin has this great big soft fluffy heart, and for whatever reason all of the girls in school that had any big feeling issues, they just found a safe space to talk to Corbin. And sometimes Corbin was like, I don't know how to handle that, like that's not a thing. Like they're telling him big stuff about like self-interest behavior or using drugs. And I feel like this was also in, I don't know, middle school. So it was very early on. And Corbin would come home and he'd be like, so by the way, I told that girl that she could come talk to you. Oh, by the way, so-and-so said that they were being self-injurious. And so I let them know that you would be here tomorrow afternoon and they could come talk to you. And I was constantly having random children show up at my doorstep because Corbin said so. Thank you, Corbin. But he also knew that this was like a safe space, a safe space for him, but a safe space for other people. And it was cool to watch him utilize certain tools and for him to know that he's comfortable enough talking to me and the world doesn't end. And I'm still able to keep him safe, even with hard conversations. So therefore, other people should be able to talk to me and that I will also keep them safe from these types of things. I mean, there was cool things to watch them do. I asked Corbin before filming this, I was like, hey, what's kind of like a gold star mom moment that pops into your head just right away? And he comes back and he tells me about this moment where his ex approached me on the soccer field and how I handled that situation. So Corbin had gotten himself in trouble at school and had to go to the he had to go do the like a different program at a different school for a short period of time. And whenever I went and enrolled him in that, it was very much like, don't make friends here. Do not make any friends here. Like, this is not where you want to have friends at. Like, you're going to go back to your regular school. You're going to have all of your original friends. This is not the crowd. So what does he do? He finds himself a girlfriend there and in like a day, and then starts bringing this girl around or sneaking around a little bit with this girl. And I'm furious. Like, no good can come of a girl that you met that is involved in this program that you're going to at school. Like, I disagree. We're not doing this. And I'd always been able to have conversations with Corbin about girls and being able to choose good, wholesome girls. And there was plenty of girls that I was like, no, that girl is trifling. No. And Corbin would break up with them. Nope. And then there were others that were more than welcome to come around the house as much as they wanted. This girl was not going to be one welcome around my house. And Corbin comes up to me as I'm telling him, like, no, you can't do this with her. And he's like, well, I'm going to keep doing it with her. And I'm like, we're not having these conversations, right? Anyways, so we're at a soccer game one Saturday, and this girl walks up to me, sits down on the soccer field next to me, and proceeds to have a whole conversation with me about who she is as a person and that I've got it all wrong. And it was in that moment that I had to be like, okay, let's try it out. Let's see what you got. Let's see if you're being honest. And it felt very honest. It felt very genuine, and also like big balls on that one, because I don't know that I would have walked up to a mom that I know that hates me. And so I really had to take a step back and be like, okay, like this is what these kids are wanting, and I can't run my child's life. And I have mad respect for this girl for doing this. And all in all, being able to accept this child. She was a teenager. Corbin, whenever he said that, he said me accepting her, having that conversation with her, not making her go away right away, and then ultimately backing down and apologizing was his gold star mom moment for me, which is cool. I mean, I think it's important to apologize. I think it's important as a parent to acknowledge if you're wrong in certain situations. Well, if you're wrong, acknowledge that you're wrong in any situation, but like really having genuine and authentic apologies so that your children know that you're human and that if you make mistakes, it's okay. It's okay to come back from them. It's okay to not be right all the time. It's okay to be wrong and have to make amends. And that's how we learn and that's how we grow. So that was always something really important. But that was one of those moments. I learned a lot about my children in that particular moment. I know whenever I got divorced and now I'm on my own, right? And I had a bunch of male friends and I would listen to the way they talked about their moms. And I'm listening to grown men at this point say things like, oh, yeah, she was a good mom, but she was kind of a whore. Yikes. Or, yeah, she tried her best, but she wasn't really present. Or she tried her best, but she was constantly fighting with my dad and put me in the middle of it. And I hated that. So I'm hearing these things when my kids are like 4 and 6. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want that to be me. I want my kids, when they grow up, to be 23 and 25 and 30 years old. I want them to be able to obviously not call me a whore. That's crazy. But also not feel like I got in the way of a relationship with their dad, not feel like I was not present or engaged in their life. Like these were the things that really mattered to me. And I think started to really shape where I was coming from, right? Because at that time, I'm just getting out of hospitals and I'm going through all of the other mental health stuff that I've talked about at great lengths. And so this was something that was really important on top of just my internal desire to have my children feel safe with me, unlike I felt with the rattlesnake. And so I tried to really live by that forever, not whether you like me today. I don't care if you like me today, we're not friends. I'm your mom. I'm never your friend. I'm still not their friend, right? Like I'm still their mom. And neither one of them would call me their friend. And Corbin actually has some really big feelings about like, I don't want my mom to be my friend. That's fucking weird. But I do want my mom to be my mom. And I want my mom to act like my mom and show up as my mom. And I respect her as my mom. And I think you can have really, really close relationships and still not be like, oh yeah, but my son and my mom, like we're best friends. You're my child and I love you and I'm going to support you all the time. But like, I don't need to be your best friend. Please don't tell me all the things you did last weekend when I was not around as you are in your young 20s. Please don't. And I will not, share all of my things with you either. But with all of that, a couple of years ago for Christmas, I told the boys that all I really wanted was, a list or a letter or something of why they loved me now that they were grown men, right? I was just so curious what they were going to pull out. Caden did this. Caden rose to that challenge, which we love that. We love that. And in there, he put one of the reasons he said, you put my life and my brother's life before your own. And that meant a lot, right? It still means a lot because we have had our ups and downs over the course of a thing. But the fact that my child at 21 years old could sit back and be like, yeah, I know that you always put us before you. That meant a lot, especially given so many of the things that we had overcome together, the three of us. And in there, he had also put, I'm proud of you and you've left the impact on me that a good mother should. And again, that's all we're trying to do as parents, right? We just want to be a positive force in our children's life. And we want to leave them better than maybe we were left or as good as, right? I think some people have beautiful beautiful childrenhoods, beautiful childhoods. And, then the goal is to make sure that your child has that as well. And you have a little bit more of a foundation, but that's still all that's all we want. So to have him tell me that made me all warm and fuzzy. He also put in there that he said, you are the number one person in the world, a real hero to everyone around. And that obviously spoke to me so much. And I did talk about that a handful of episodes ago whenever we were talking about possibly having me foster a kiddo or something. And so to know that he really just not only thinks of me highly or that I left a positive impact on him, but that he also sees me as like just this hero to himself and to others, that he really kind of knows that and gets that no matter what goes on when we're having a hard time. So with all of that, there's so many blessings and there's such a roller coaster through it. And we're all just trying to figure it out. So all of the mamas and all of the mama supporters, just remember that there's no manual and we're all learning on the fly. Your kids aren't going to care if your makeup was perfect or your hair or if the house was always 100% clean. But what they are going to remember is if you missed a football play because you were too busy texting on your phone to be present. True story. So just be present, do your best, and take care of yourself. We all, as moms, we need to take care of ourselves so that we can show up the best version of ourselves for these little people. Again, whether they are 6 months or 26 years old, they will always need you and they will always love you. So take care of yourself so that you can show up for them the best way possible. With that, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you are listening to this at. New episodes are released every single Monday. The video version of this is on YouTube at Dysfunctionally Yours podcast, and it also comes out on Monday. Engage on the Dysfunctionally Yours Instagram page where the Google form is that we talk about, because we are building a community and I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. I want to hear your stories. Tell me what you did for Mother's Day. You can also now find me on TikTok at Dysfunctionally Yours podcast. Until next week, don't be afraid to be great. Toodles, poodles, bye.